Good morning. I present you the 112th class of the Harvard Trade Union Program.
You all can see I do whatever Alita tells me to do. She told me to come up here. No, I'm just kidding. All right, I want to just echo the welcome to the Harvard Law School, for those of you who haven't been with us before, and to the graduation of the 112th class of the Harvard Trade Union Program. Special welcome to family of our graduates, to our faculty, who put in amazing time in the classroom over these past 5 weeks, to alumni of the program. You know this is a family, and you are always, always part of that family, and we cherish your continued engagement with the program, to colleagues, and most importantly, to our class. Okay, first I'm going to talk to our guests, and in particular to the family members and coworkers of our participants. I want to tell you a little bit about what this class has gone through together during the past 5 weeks. They have had more classroom hours than a semester of a Harvard undergraduate. They've had almost 100 different classes. They met about 60 different faculty members and speakers, including a Pulitzer Prize winner, and not one, but 2 Nobel Prize winners. They had many mindful minutes. They toured Boston labor history sites and spent some time in Chinatown with a classmate who I hear fell in love with his new neighborhood. They went back in history in Lowell and Lawrence, Massachusetts. They were welcomed by many of our local brothers and sisters in the labor movement, including a visit to IBEW Local 103 for a tour of their state-of-the-art training center and a wonderful dinner. They had lunch with Laborers Local 175, and they had a great Super Bowl party hosted by our dear friends at the Mass AFL-CIO. They went to many hockey games, particularly encouraged by our Canadian participants. They dug deep to define their own personal narratives. They spent 2 days negotiating. They met the authors of many books. They watched a movie about the inspiring Amazon organizing campaign. They took on Harvard Law School students at trivia night and earned bragging rights when one of their own was the only one to get the last question of the night correct. Go Thor. They celebrated Martin Luther King Day at the Strand Theater in Nubian Square, a very special place in Boston. They read thousands, I think it's accurate to say, pages of homework. They supported each other during a kind of dark and gloomy time of the year here in Cambridge, and actually experienced a bunch of snowstorms, which was not true for last year's group. So you got a real New England, at least a taste of a real New England winter. And they made more than 42 new friends. Okay, so families, friends, colleagues of graduates, I hope this explains why you haven't heard too much from participants over the past 5 weeks. They've been a little busy. But what I want to say to all of you directly is thank you for your sacrifice. 5 weeks is a long time. You stepped up and filled in during those 5 long weeks. Maybe you were a single parent. Maybe you had to work 2 jobs to cover for somebody. Maybe you had to rearrange your life so that we could do this work together over these 5 weeks. So I also have one request for you. Be patient when you hear over and over again, well, at Harvard, we did this, or at Harvard, we did that. It's going to happen. But I can say without any reservation that this was a truly special class. The faculty told me this over and over again. I had such joy in hearing from our faculty, from Alida, from Jack, Taya, Yuri, all the people who were in the classroom with you day after day, how you've grown and found your voices. We brought to you the best of the best at Harvard, and in some senses from around the world. We brought you world-famous experts in their field, and you engaged them in a remarkably meaningful way. Always respectful, but never intimidated. You demonstrated a seriousness of purpose. You showed up early every day, did the reading, worked on your presentations outside of class, took field trips together. But maybe most importantly, you created a vibrant community within this group. It's a lot of time to spend together. It's kind of unprecedented, I think, in our adult lives. That you treated each other with respect, kindness, and graciousness. You took care of each other. You made it a safe space to share personal stories. You challenged each other's ideas and opinions, but not each other. And you made each other better because you were here together. So where do you go from here? I'm a mother, I can't help it, I have to give some advice. Rest and reconnect with your lives. Think about how to use not just the information that you learned, but the experiences that you had and the growth that you achieved. Be better at your jobs than you were before you came here. The labor movement needs no less. We spent a lot of time talking about how challenging the situation is in our country right now and in the labor movement. But I hope you found that we also talked about the opportunities that this moment still presents. And you now have tools to play an even bigger role in being part of the solution that all workers, not just union workers, but all workers so desperately need. And keep in touch. Help me and Alida and the rest of our team to learn from you how to make this program even better for the benefit of your brothers and sisters who will come next. So, of course, I have to say thank you to our amazing team, our amazing faculty, our support network within HLS, especially the events team, many of whom are represented here by HERE Local 26, SEIU 32BJ. But the most special people I have to thank is our CLJE team, and it truly is a team. We have Jack, who teaches and is so present for everyone in the program. Yuri, where's Yuri? Oh, she's downstairs. See, Yuri's still working. She's downstairs because she is willing to pitch in whatever needs to be done. Pam, who couldn't be with us, you might not have seen Pam, but trust me, she's important. She handles all the finances. Giovanni, who does work some kind of magic in making sure that we have exactly the right room for every event. Harvard Law School is a busy place. That is not a given, and somehow Giovanni always comes through. Taya, who is so often a helpful presence in the classroom. Vonda and Aaron, who did more teaching than they ever have before and really threw themselves into this year's program. Michelle Miller, who also couldn't be with us, but who tackled that important topic of tech in an actionable manner. Before I get to the last person, I have to call out one particular faculty member who unfortunately couldn't be with us today. But you all have the special honor of being the last HTUP class that Arnold Zach is going to teach. Arnold had been with us in the program for 40 years, but has decided to retire from the program. And so I hope you all treasure that time that you were able to spend with him. He's just a really special part of the HTUP family. Okay, last I have to say a thank you to Alita. I mean, I don't know what in the world this would be like if we didn't have Alita throwing her heart, her soul, her back, her everything into this program. I love what she said to me the other day when she was wearing her special 112th session hoodie, that it was appropriate that the names are all on the back because she carried you on her back over these 5 weeks. But it's an amazing team. Thank you, Alita. Thank you to everyone, and now I'm going to turn it over to my very special colleague, Richard Freeman.
When I spoke with you people, I thought it was a great class, and I think every faculty person who's been with this class has said this is a really extraordinary class. That's not something one says every year, and it's just some classes, just work out better than others. But you're also a class that is entering a very, Sharon used the word challenging, and I would say it's almost a surreal world. Mr. Trump has not yet declared himself king of the country, but he is undoing a large part of the federal government, and he has appointed himself as head of the Kennedy Center, so that he will be king of American culture. The education department is going to be dismantled, and we've been working on getting some of their publicly available files onto a Harvard database, so the people will still be able to get information if they end up closing the information services. They just cut the NIH overhead monies, and they're cutting NIH. NIH, the postdocs, unionized a huge amount. So the NIH has lots of scientists and engineers who are working as postdocs. They unionized this last year, and they got a contract. Congress has to approve of the contract, but if Congress approves the contract, which is questionable, but if they do, the president may decide, I'm not going to spend that money because it's extra pay for these young scientists and engineers. And we have yet to see the Labor Department totally transformed, but that's being changed into no longer a labor-friendly department, but a labor-unfriendly department. So you are graduating into a world that just seems, I would say, you might say it seems impossible that you will be able to make it better. But impossible is a very funny set of letters. I am possible. And that comes from Audrey Hepburn, an actress who apparently was quite a character in her career. And then impossible, I found one other good quote to this. Nelson Mandela just said, "It's impossible until you get it done." And then everybody goes and says, "Yes, you got it done. Good, great." And I'm trying to think of something potentially wise or inspiring to more than those kind of words. So I'm going to offer a way of thinking of things that you probably didn't have in the class, though maybe they did. There's so many things that you do get in this class. And this is called decision-making under deep uncertainty. And it's big in climate science, and it's big in national defense. And the idea is you don't know what the future is like. And we really don't know. I mean, there may be a declaration of a return of a monarchy within the next few weeks, or who knows, because every day there's more weird and surreal things happening. So you can't be sitting there saying, gee, we're going to predict what the current administration will be doing, other than it's just going to be headlines, headlines, headlines. So what kind of a strategy can unions and other people make in a world in which they can't predict the future? Tomorrow may be very different than today. We may see, we just don't know. Well, there is a way of thinking about it, and I'm thinking that this is the way unions should, and you should go back and do. And this strategy says, if I can't predict the future, and it's incredibly difficult to understand what an optimal strategy would be, an optimal plan, is you look for what plan would you like to see work? What would you want to see? You make a plan for that, and then you make it adaptable, and you stress test it, and you try it out. And the place where I think one should do a lot of things, we've got in two growing industries, we've had young people wanting to join unions in huge numbers. And that's in the scientific community, inside universities, and inside NIH, the federal government, the postdocs. There, you have a tremendous support for unions, and you have it in the medical sector with all these MDs. And those are two relatively strong and have been growing. Maybe, who knows, they may cut down the growth of hospitals. They'll do some messy things with Medicare. But you should think about ways to build on that, use that, and defend that. And what strategy you would have is sort of, it's what you want. It's not reacting to what the other side is presenting you with. And then I did find one other comment that struck me as very reasonable and correct. It is the person who acts first has an advantage. And everything has been reacting to a worsening situation for labor, and it's somehow or other take some strong action and let the other side react to it. Make sure it's flexible, make sure you can change if it doesn't fit, et cetera. So I think this is the sunniest day we've had in a long time, a couple of days. And I thought, the sun came up this morning, we should all be optimistic, and we should be aggressive in a positive way of thinking of taking some action to try to change and make the country better, or make the union movement better, but the country really is what needs you more than, well, the country needs the union movement, and union movement needs you, and just do something really positive, and if it doesn't work, it's adaptable. You shift a bit, et cetera. And don't sit there and say, oh, we're just waiting for the next bomb to drop from Washington of we've abolished this or that, or we et cetera. I mean, some of the changes have been so striking. Firing all the inspector generals in the government. I hope I got the word right. Inspector generals, yeah. That is like unbelievable. That literally is putting out a sign. Corruption, come in. That's unheard of that would be done, and every day there's something like that. And if we're always just reacting, no, we should react, and you should be leading the reaction. Thank you.
Okay, we now have a very, very special guest. to share some thoughts with you. Julie Su was the labor secretary, and I'm just saying that, the labor secretary for almost the last 2 years of the Biden administration. Prior to that, she was the deputy secretary labor. And before joining us at the Department of Labor, Julie was the labor secretary for the state of California and the labor commissioner for the Division of Labor Standards Enforcement, also in the state of California. Before going into government, Julie started her legal career at the Asian Pacific American Legal Center, which is now known as Advancing Justice, which is a nonprofit civil rights organization where she served as litigation director. What she did there was truly transformative, and that really is the hallmark of Julie's career. At Advancing Justice, she was the lead attorney for the El Monte Thai garment slavery case, which was brought on behalf of these El Monte garment workers. And what Julie was able to do was to hold responsible for wage theft both the manufacturers who were getting the benefit of these vulnerable people's work, but also the operators who actually kept the garment workers captive. This is happening in our country, and people had let it go on until Julie came up with a theory to hold them all accountable. For that work and her remarkable record, she was the recipient of a MacArthur Genius Award. I am so honored to call Julie a colleague and a friend. I know because I spent a fair amount of my career in the Department of Labor and had friends who served there with Julie. Just what a remarkable difference that she made during her 4 years in the Francis Perkins building. And we will always call it that, whatever happens. So again, I am just thrilled to have Julie with us today.
Thank you so much, Sharon. And Harvard graduates, congratulations. Let's give them a hand. I could not be more excited to be here with you today. This is a gathering of the popular kids, right? Everyone has heard that unions are more popular today than they have been in my entire lifetime. So welcome to the Popular Kids celebration. And I want to just echo what's already been said to the family members who are here. I know it's not easy to be away from these amazing individuals, and I know how proud you are and that you are looking forward to having them home. And to my dear friend Sharon, whose footsteps I have followed, to Richard, to Alida, and everybody who makes this program run, thank you so much also. So how many of you are thinking, I never imagined that I would graduate from Harvard? Yeah, okay, so here's the thing though. What I have known throughout my life is that what organizers and union leaders do on a regular basis is imagine that something that looks impossible is possible. Who reaches for something that other people might not have seen and then breathes life into it and makes it happen. And so today is an example of that, as Richard has also said. So my first job, as Sharon mentioned, was fighting alongside workers in Los Angeles. And one day, a long time ago, when I was doing that work, I went to speak to a class of third graders on Career Day. And I told them that what I get to do is advocate for and organize garment workers in Los Angeles. People who work really long hours, who don't get to see their kids when they wake up in the morning and don't get to kiss them goodnight at night because they have to be at work that entire time, without recess or lunch. And I told them that these workers work for these companies who make a lot of money from them while the workers make very little. And a few weeks later, I got a stack of drawings from these kids on construction paper and with crayons and colored pencils. And one of them had a brightly colored shirt on one side with zigzag designs and rainbows, and on the other side, a woman with a sewing machine. And on the top, the child had written, "¿Cuál vale más, una camisa o una vida?" What's worth more, a shirt or a life? And so I framed those pictures and I hung them on my wall for years to remind me that the costs of worker exploitation are not just to those workers, but also to the message that it sends to people about what and who we value. Now, I never planned on leaving California, but when President Biden said that he wanted to create the most pro-worker, pro-union administration this country had ever seen, I said, sign me up for that. I'd like to help do that. And President Biden knew, like I do, and I think like all of us know, that when workers are strong, America is strong. But for so long, we've heard the opposite. We've heard that people who work long hours and still just barely get by just have to work harder. We've heard that to create a good climate for business, you can't have too many labor laws or too many unions. We've been told to accept that the massive gap between CEO salaries and frontline worker pay, where workers have to work for years, maybe their entire lives, to make what the CEO makes in just a month, is just the natural way of things. Well, we said, not on our watch. We said that is not the natural way of things. And under President Biden, we really flipped that narrative. As he said over and over again, Wall Street didn't build America, the middle class built America, and unions built the middle class. But it's one thing to say it. It's a very different thing to actually do it. And I want to talk a little bit about what it means to actually be pro-worker and pro-union. It meant a sitting president walking a picket line, standing next to the UAW workers during their stand-up strike. It meant a sitting president saying clearly to warehouse workers in Bessemer, Alabama, and Staten Island, New York, that the right to organize belongs to you and you alone, full stop, without interference, without coercion, without threats. It meant a Department of Labor whose very first thing you saw if you got onto our website was how to form or join a union. That's gone now, but that is what it said during that time. It meant protecting union apprenticeships, because we know that apprenticeship programs with real standards are the way to actually prepare workers, not just for the hope of a job, not for a job that might materialize, but for an actual career, right? A job, a career, a lifelong path to success and security as an electrician, an operating engineer, a laborer, an iron worker, an elevator constructor, a steel worker, and more. And it meant actually investing in America's workers. So I saw President Biden pass historic investments in our nation's infrastructure, in manufacturing, in clean energy, and then say that when we put federal dollars out, they're not blank checks to corporations. We're going to put labor standards onto them. And we're going to make sure that union workers get those jobs. Because you know, and I know, that when you want a job done right, you want a union worker to do it. We made the first update to Davis-Bacon laws in 40 years, helping to lift up prevailing wages. And we proposed the first standard to protect workers from the hazards of heat, indoor and outdoor workers. We set up a special claims unit so that firefighters and other first responders could get their workers' compensation benefits faster. Before that, about 30% of claims were actually approved. When I left office, it was over 90%. And that's because working people who spent their whole lives saving other people's lives should get the benefits that they deserve. And that's same for pensions, right? For decades, multi-employer pension funds had been losing their money. Since the 2008 economic crash, when banks were bailed out, working people got letters in the mail that said that their hard-earned retirement benefits were going to be slashed. Now, let's just be clear about pensions, right? Pensions are not a gift. They're something that you earned. They're something that you are entitled to. And for the last about 15 years, unions have organized and made demands to save those pension funds. But it wasn't until President Biden that we got the Butch Lewis Act, which by the time we left, had saved 1.3 million people for making sure that they would have their pensions. And I was actually in Philadelphia with President Biden when we announced the UFCW Tri-State Pension Fund being approved. And the best thing about it was talking to retirees, people who were on the verge of retirement, who were crying with relief because now they knew that they could actually put away their tools, put away their boots after knowing that their pensions would be there for them. I also traveled the country and met nurses all over the world, all over the country, all over the world, who actually loved their jobs but were leaving because of low pay and long hours and too many patients per nurse and workplace violence. And no worker should have to lose their limbs, their lungs, or their lives just to do their jobs. We know that, right? And one thing that drove me nuts was employers who failed to keep their workers safe, especially over and over again, where they would get citations one time and then again, but they never changed their practices. And I hated seeing OSHA, a part of the Department of Labor, using less than its full power to hold employers accountable so that every violation just felt like a slap on the wrist. And I'm proud to say that in the last 2 years, the Department of Labor issued the highest number of citations by OSHA of over $100,000. And we made it clear that a worker can select a representative to walk around with them when OSHA comes to do an inspection, and that includes a union representative. Now, what else does it mean to be really pro-worker and pro-union? Well, one thing that you all know well, graduates, is that it's much harder than it should be to reach a first contract, right? Once workers choose a union, in too many cases, the employer will drag out the process of getting to a first contract. And we know that's not by accident. They figure the longer it takes, maybe the workers will decide that they don't really want the union. Maybe they'll start to wonder if it was a good idea in the first place. And that's where leaders like you come in. And I want to talk about a leader in this graduating class, Alex Perkins. So, Alex helped over 1,500 workers in Fort Valley, Georgia, who make school buses for Bluebird to organize their first union and to get a first contract. And that contract raised wages for some workers by as much as 40% and put in place new health and safety standards and strengthened retirement benefits. And when I first met the Bluebird workers along with Alex in Georgia, and I heard about what was happening, I reached out to the CEO of the company. And I said, you know what a union can do for you, right? You know that a union is the best partner that you can have to make sure that your workers are safe and healthy, to make sure they feel valued, to make sure that they're heard, to make sure that they can help you to solve problems that you have in the workplace and to plan for your future. And I challenged him to arrive at a first contract within 1 year of when his employees had chosen to form a union. And because of Alex, because of the strength of those workers, that actually happened. Now, whoever said black workers in the South can't be organized haven't met black workers in the South, and haven't met Alex, and haven't met all of you. So we'll see what happens here. Now, in my role as acting labor secretary, I also was in the room for many of the big contract negotiations over the last 2 years, from airline flight attendants to auto workers, from machinists at Boeing to healthcare workers at Kaiser to longshoremen on the East and West coasts. And I saw my job when I walked into that room not to pressure the parties to reach a contract, not to avoid strikes, which was often the strategy of prior administrations. I saw my job as making sure that those workers got a contract that reflected their true value. And these negotiations were tough. Both the workers and the bargaining committees were even tougher. And I am so excited to see all of you go back into your communities to be those tough leaders that your unions and your members need. And many of those negotiating sessions lasted all night. And they involved historic demands, because you know and I know that we can't win anything unless we demand it. We can't win anything that we're not fighting for, right? And the thing I heard so often, time and time again in those negotiations from the corporations was, we can't do that wage increase that you want because it's too high above the market wage. Above the market wage. My response to that was, instead of telling workers that their demands are too high, maybe it's time we start to question why the market wage is so low. Why is it that working people have to work full-time, year-round, sometimes multiple jobs, and still can't afford to live near where they work? And the thing that's so amazing about unions and union contracts is that you are helping to lift up that market wage. Through your contracts, you not only make wages better for your members, you lift up wages in an entire industry. And I think that is remarkable, and that is worth celebrating. And when unions reset and lift up the market wage, it also closes racial and gender pay gaps as well. So we know that when workers do well, when we strive for worker justice, we can also advance racial and gender justice. Now, I'm really proud that we helped to show what it means to be really pro-worker and pro-union. We were not done with the work. I'm not saying we accomplished everything, but we showed what it means to walk the walk. And none of it would have been possible without workers stepping forward and unions doing the day-to-day work of organizing, of building solidarity, of negotiating, and of imagining a world that once seemed impossible and making it possible. And that's why I'm so excited to be here today to celebrate all of you. But my friends, as you already heard, and you heard this from Richard, I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say that today there are real risks of losing the gains that we've made. People in office claim to be pro-worker, but they are deeply anti-worker in what they do. Just in the last 3 weeks, the NLRB has also been gutted. And we already heard Whole Foods, right, Amazon's first grocery chain, use that as an excuse to deny the UFCW their ability to represent their new members. And the attack on government employees, specifically federal employees, has been outrageous. Elon Musk has been playing a dangerous game of intimidation, chaos, and threats. And the hardworking civil servants that I got to work with over the last 4 years and public employee unions are on the front lines of that battle. And what all of this tells us is that one thing we need more in this moment than maybe ever before is something that union leaders know well: real solidarity. Solidarity within your union and outside of your union. Solidarity across unions, across industries, and with non-union workers. Because that solidarity is what is going to get us through this moment. Because today, billionaires are running the government, and not just any billionaires. Those who have made their profits by exploiting workers and undermining unions. So let's be very, very clear. If someone tries to tell us they're pro-worker, let's make them show it. We know what it looks like. Let's make them do it. And the solidarity that is needed here, and the solidarity you all have built together, is the solidarity that is going to demonstrate not just that we're trying to predict what's to come, predicting the future, but that we're going to make the future. That's what's going to make the future. And you all know, unions were built for big fights. You all are built for big fights. We are built for big fights. We've fought them before. And it's so important because we also know the future that we want. We know the future that we need. We're not there yet, but we know that we can build a future where every worker gets a just day's pay for a hard day's work, where every worker knows that they're going to come home healthy and safe at the end of the workday, where every worker gets the care and the security and the retirement benefits that they need and deserve, where we know that immigrant workers actually make America strong, and that there is no room for racism or sexism in our workplaces, in our communities, or in our country. You know that. We know that. And we can make that happen. And we know that every worker should feel that power of solidarity that comes from joining with others and demanding what they really, really deserve, even if they've never had it before, even if it hasn't been seen. So I'm going to close by saying that we know that worker power is not bad for our economy. We know it's not a threat to democracy. It is the beating heart of our democracy. And if we want a strong democracy, we need strong unions. And strong unions are built by those of you in this room and those of you in this graduating class. So I know it hasn't been easy to be away from your families. I know it hasn't been easy to be away from your work for the amount of time that you've been. But now, everything that you've gained, you can bring back home to the people that you love, to your homes, your workplaces, your unions, your communities. And I know that you are going to make them better. So let's build a world that's worthy of all of your members. Let's build a world that saves our democracy. And let's build a world where no child will ever have to ask, what's worth more, a shirt, or a life? Because we know that when working people do well, everybody does better. So let's do that work together. Congratulations, you are all amazing. I cannot wait to see what you do next. And I'm sorry, I know who the next two speakers are, and I just want to be very clear that what I told Martin and Alex is I was just the warm-up act for the real stars of this ceremony. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very inspirational. Good morning. I'm Alida Castillo. I'm the director of the Harvard Trade Union Program. I spent the last 5 weeks with our graduating class and enjoyed every day with them. After being together for the past 5 weeks in classes, sharing weekends and evenings and experiences, the class of 2025 has chosen 2 people to represent them in this ceremony. The 2 people who are their essence and that they felt the closest that would show what they have experienced here. We will first have Martin Mulcairn from the Massachusetts AFL-CIO and OPEIU Local 6, followed by Alex Perkins from the United Steelworkers.
Good morning. Real quick, how about another round of applause for Secretary Sue? We're picky about labor secretaries in Boston, and she's been absolutely fantastic in the Biden administration, so thank you very much. Forgive me if I'm a bit out of my element up here. Usually when I'm at Harvard talking to a lot of people, it's talking to the UAW members and the SEIU members outside when they call us, need help when they're going through a contract negotiation or something with Harvard. And next time they call us for help, we're going to be there then too. But now, just a couple shout outs, bear with me. My wife Erin is here, and I want to thank her for allowing me to drop literally everything at home to have this great opportunity. Happy Valentine's Day. My dad's here today. He's a retired member of over 40 years of Labor's Local Union 223. All of the comforts I've enjoyed in my life, every meal I've eaten, and I've eaten a few, are because of Labor's Local 223. And it is the singular reason why unions are important to me. And I want other folks to be able to have what I have growing up. That's what brought me to the union, the labor movement. My bosses, Mass AFL-CIO President Chrissy Lynch and Secretary Treasurer Kevin Brousseau are here. Thank you for the confidence and the support sending me to this program. Also, my union rep, Pat Daly from OPEIU 6 is here, and our president emeritus at the AFL, Steve Tolman. I'm sure you've all talked to him already. He's probably telling a side story outside. So, like I said, I grew up in the trades. Everyone in my family went into construction or the trades out of high school, but my grades were a little bit better than my brothers. So I got that classic spiel from my dad. You're not doing this shit for the rest of your life, you're going to college. So I did. I bounced around after college, but then I came back to the labor movement and I got a job at the AFL. Here we go. I came back because even though I didn't go right into the trades, it's where I want to be, it's where I want to work. We have so much good we can do if we put the time in. Walking into this program, all of us, we were all on the same page, in the same boat I wrote down, sorry. Stuffy classroom, 8 hours a day, regimented schedule, enough reading to make Albert Einstein want to go blind. So everybody in the class knows, throughout the class, we had a bit of a theme, and we all love acronyms, right? Where's Thor? So I made an acronym for the class. The acronym is Harvard. Huge amounts of reading, voluminous amounts of reading daily. But we made it. We had vigorous discussions and arguments. We learned some great new tactics and skills to develop. We kept ourselves running on hangovers and banter and those precious daily mindful minutes. Billy Joe's right here. Thank you, Billy Joe. We love you. And we're all better for it, just as our members will be. So before I wrap up with all of you, I just have a couple more shout-outs. We had a great local Boston crew over in Central Square. Jimmy, John, Kevin, Joe, Brendan. We never got the chance to really know each other before the program, but now we're all going to be such a huge resource to each other. So thank you guys for kind of helping me out. We had a bit of an informal campaign committee for speaker that we came up with at about midnight at a bar on Mass Ave. Neve, Daria, Kate, and my campaign manager, Lexi, right there. I have a quick question for the class. What's the matter with Lexi? She's all right. There we go. We didn't practice that. And to all my other fellow classmates, I've learned so much from every one of you. Everyone, make sure you please save my phone number, because if I come to your city, I'm calling in those favors. So to wrap up, I do have an ask for everyone as you go back to work from the trade union program. When you get back, please get more involved with your local labor councils and your state federations of labor. We are all stronger and more powerful together. Make sure you're affiliated, show up, go to the meetings, put your 2 cents in, because the next 4 years and after that, it's going to be a hell of a battle, and we need to be strong together when we can. Real quick, let's give it up for Alita, Jack, all of the Harvard staff, the custodians, the researchers, the dining staff, everyone who's worked hard to take care of us the last 5 years, and the people who are going to take care of us at the reception. Everyone, make sure you tip. Thank you.
So Martin put me on the spot. I got to make sure I tell my wife Happy Valentine's Day before I get started. So Happy Valentine's Day, sweetie. I know she's watching. All right, so good morning, everyone. Let me start by thanking God for allowing each and every one of us to be here today. I would also ask that he watch over us as we travel back to our respective countries, whether here in the U.S., Canada, the U.K., or way down under in Australia. Next, I would like to offer up thanks to each and every one of our organizations for making an investment into each of us and allowing us the opportunity to attend this prestigious program. I say investment because I know without a shadow of a doubt we will be taking back what we have learned and putting it to use to help grow our organizations. Mr. A. Philip Randolph once said, "A community is democratic only when the humblest and weakest person can enjoy the highest civil, economic, and social rights that the biggest and most powerful possess." This quote means even more today than it did when he spoke it many years ago. Just ask Elon Musk. I'm sure he doesn't agree with that statement, but I'm sure we all do. I really had to take some time to come up with what to say and what would be received well in today's climate. With all that has transpired here in the U.S. since we started this program on January the 12th until now has been very disturbing, to say the least. I had mixed emotions as I was putting together this speech. On one hand, I was overwhelmed with being able to be a representative and a speaker for this group of phenomenal labor leaders. On the other hand, I was saddened because thinking about some of our current president's mandates, it brought me to the realization of this one thing, that I, Alex Perkins, will be the last DEI selected speaker of the Harvard Trade Union Program. And that was a joke. That was a joke. But seriously, the past 5 weeks have been so enlightening and inspiring for myself and my classmates. We've had an opportunity to hear from some really great professors, Nobel Prize-winning authors, and speakers. And the whole time we've been here, it seems that the world has been crumbling around us. The task ahead of us is clear and was laid out on day one when Ms. Alita informed us that this is not a shop steward training. This is a course to further help develop real leaders. The class of 2025 is full of leaders that have not been afraid to share their experiences and perspective on any of the issues that have been reviewed over the past 5 weeks. And that is what makes this program so special. The opportunity to take a look at the labor movement's past challenges to see how we as a movement have overcome those obstacles to keep pushing forward and looking ahead at the potential challenges ahead of us. The Harvard Trade Union Program has provided us with a setting where we could get insight, different viewpoints, as well as the pros and cons of our thought processes from so many strong-minded labor leaders, and being able to talk through just what are we to do. For me and my classmates, I think the answer is clear. Fight like there's no tomorrow. We all have different roles and represent different workers in different industries from all over the world. But at the end of the day, we all have the same common goal, and that is to make sure that we do what's best for the working class citizens of our respective countries. With so many challenges on the horizon, especially for us here in the U.S., we will not sit idle, nor shall we wallow in the discomfort of the things that we cannot control. We will continue to do what so many labor activists before us have done, and that is to fight. When times are hectic, we're going to fight. When times are calm, we will still be fighting. When things start going more in organized labor's favor, we will still be fighting because we have seen how with the stroke of a pen, all the things that the labor movement has fought for can be taken away, are pretty much paralyzed just as the NLRB sits today. But rest assured, we will not fight blindly. On February the 5th, in our class with Professor David Weil, he started the class with this statement: there has never been a moment when strategy has been more important. There has never been a moment where effective leaders has been more important. Professor Weil, you're right. And for the past 5 weeks, that is exactly what we have been learning to do. We have been strategizing and becoming more effective leaders, from classes on organizing, economic policy, legal issues, capital strategy, labor history, as well as AI and growing technology. We have been given a compass and the tools needed to help build this labor movement up even more. To my classmates, it's been an enjoyable and revitalizing 5 weeks, and I know that you all are ready to get back home to your families and coworkers and tell them how great of an experience this was. I am as well. But I have one ask of each of you. Thank your support system. I couldn't have made it through these last 5 weeks without the support of my loving wife, my mom, my friends, families, and coworkers that kept me encouraged and motivated to stay on task, as well as filling in for me in my absence. I'm sure that you all have a strong support system as well, and they need to be celebrated in this moment also, because without them, this opportunity may have passed some of us by. After seeing some of your action plans and receiving feedback on others, I know that you all are ready for the fight ahead, and if you need any one of us to help you with anything in this fight, just know that we're a phone call or a WhatsApp message away. Just don't call me at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern, because I'll be doing my mindful minutes, and all you'll get and all you'll get is ha, ha, ha. We are the 2025 class of the Harvard Trade Union Program, and we are about to set out to make history and leave our mark on the labor movement forever. I will close by saying thank you to each of the instructors and to anyone who had a hand in making this 112th session of the Harvard Trade Union Program a success. And I hope and pray that the 113th session next year can receive even more knowledge to come behind and push us in our backs as we continue this fight. And at this moment, I'd like to take a point of privilege. We like to, there's a lot of people that do things behind the scenes, but we want to thank them publicly before everyone. So, Amy, could you and Veronica come up quickly? Quickly. I don't want to, I'm giving you some of my minutes.
Well, thank you. That was incredible, and thank you to all of you. So as not to make Alita's head explode, we will make this very fast. But if we could please have Alita, Yori, Taya, Jack, and Giovanni come up. This last 5 weeks could not have happened without them. And they have kept us, they've herded the cats, right? But they have made this a really incredible experience and have kept us all motivated through the entire program. So, class of 2025, on your feet. Shout out to Alita, Taya, Jack, Giovanni, and Yuri.
All right, so I gave them a couple of seconds out of my minutes, but I had to thank former Secretary Sue before I left here. She mentioned, the work that I was able to do, but it wasn't an I, it was a we. I'm a steel worker, and we had a team of people that worked together. But your help and the leverage that you provided for us to be able to get that contract, we'll never forget that. Thank you so much for your hard work and dedication.
Okay, so we're going to read out the names of the graduates. We have a little different tradition here. Typically at Harvard, things go in alphabetical order by surname, but at the Harvard Trade Union Program, people's first names go in alphabetical order, so that might help you follow what we're doing here. So, starting out, Alexander W. Perkins, Jr. Alexandra Matthews. Amy A. Legg. Amy M. Spiegel. Andrew Horrigan. Brendan Gagliardi. Carrie M. Caffrey. Charlika Lynn Thompson. Colin Daniels. Cynthia Reese Wadaker. Daria Ray Figlo. David Lopez Jr. Dean Shelton. Dominic Piazza. Doris Hernandez Murphy. Ellen McInnes. Jeffrey U.L. Prudhomme. Hugh Gillis. James Michael Fleming. Joe Rangel Jr.
Thank you.
Joel Tynan. John J. Bruno. John T. Rector. Jordan Mumford. Joseph Mandarini Jr. Juan Gonzalez Jr. Catherine Cassidy Hiltz. Kevin Longton. Kevin Moody. Macy Sherman. Martin Festus Mulcairn. Matthew C. Lay. Michael P. Mintle. Moses D. Portillo. Nadia Ibrahim. Neve Gerdusky. Paul R. Anderson. Ross Thomas Bunch. Sarah Miller. Shannon Murray. Thor Palma Cousing. And Veronica Lynn Gunn. So big hand of applause for the entire class. Let's give it up.